we are going to make sure everybody has this project on their computers. So this is yesterday everybody was asking like how do I, so I wanted to really slow it down for everybody, walk through it step by step and make sure everybody has this on their computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my command line and I'm going to navigate to the location, the directory that I want this project to live in. So for me, I'm going to go to projects. And to go to projects, to navigate from one directory to another directory, you just use CD. So if I want to go, now you can see I'm in the projects directory. If I want to go back to the gym directory, then I do CD dot dot. That'll bring me backwards. So you can see now projects isn't there. And then if I want to see all the directories that live inside of the current directory I'm in, I do dir. I believe you could do ls as well. It gives you a different view. I like this view better, the directory view. So I use dir, shows me all of the folders within the gym directory. I could see projects is here, so I'm going to do cd projects. I'm going to do dir again. I can see Bootcamp right here, so I'm going to go to Bootcamp and then dir again. I can see what's in here, intro, playground, trainings. I'm going to go to intro. This is introduction to web development. And then, so this is where I ran the command we're about to run. You're going to run a certain command when you come to the directory that you want to clone the repo inside of. So here is where I ran the command. You don't actually have to create a directory specifically for the project. This command will create that directory for you. So once you navigate to the directory where you want your project to live, it could be on the desktop. It doesn't really matter where you choose. Just try to keep your projects in a central location so that you know how to get like all your projects live in the same area. It makes it a lot easier to manage down the road. Until you get really comfortable with file system navigation, that sort of thing. But does anyone have any questions on just navigating with the command line to the directory of your choice?
I am so sorry. I think I was looking at something else when you opened Node.js command prompt, so I don't even know how to get there.
Okay, do you have a Node.js command prompt? Do you have no you I'm guessing you don't have Node, so just type in command
CMD?
command or CMD in the search.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll open up your command prompt and then you can navigate with CD to whichever directory you want your project to live. Does anyone else have any questions on that? Is everyone able to navigate effectively? I will take that as a yes. Just let me know when you get to the directory that you want to navigate to, that you want your project to live in. Is there anyone who's not in that directory right now? Matter of fact.
So we just going to the directory on our computer, or
Yeah.
we just going through the command line on our
Yeah.
computer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Just choose a directory where you want the project to live.
Oh, I see the Node.js command.
Anyone else not there yet? I'm going to change your name to Tiffany just so I know I'm not going to forget it, but it's nice to see people's names. Do you like Tiffany, Tiff? What do you go by?
Tiffany or Tiff is fine.
Okay, cool. Cool, cool. Everybody else is good.
Okay. What was that command that you did that you go into the directory? So I'm on my main desktop.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did you want us to do to like create a folder or just
So if you're on your desktop, just to simplify things, I want you to type, look at my screen, just type make directory projects.
Okay.
MKDIR projects. That'll create a projects folder on your desktop. If you're already in your desktop directory, like you said, let me know when you're good.
So let me add, have to CD into my desktop.
Are you already in the desktop? I thought you said you were already on the desktop.
I'm under my username, so you see how it has C drive, then user, then TIFF.
Okay, forget about the desktop then. Just create the projects directory inside your user folder.
Oh, okay, I did it already.
Yeah, okay. So if you press dir, do you see the projects directory in there?
Yes, I see it right here.
All right, so just press cd projects and you should be good to go. Everybody else good? Anyone else having trouble?
Is it important that all the folders are called the same thing?
No, not at all. Yeah, good question. Cool. So now the question is, we have our GitHub repo, right? We have that living in the cloud somewhere in the world. This code base is out there, and we want to bring this code base to our computer. So how do we bring this code base to our computer? We have our GitHub repository. It has code, probably a bunch of files, probably commits, you know, probably it might be bigger, it might be brand new, you never know. And so when you come to the GitHub repo, and that's why I shared the link in the chat, you should have that pulled up. You're going to see the nonprofit navigator, and you're going to see this green button here called code. Drop that down, and you're going to have an HTTPS option here. And I want you to just copy that link. And then once you have that link copied, I want you to type git clone and paste this. There might be some of you who don't have Git installed. In that case, we'll go ahead and we'll install Git. But I believe I had a video just telling.
I don't have Git.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the link. It's just a simple download. It's all automated. It's just like downloading any other program. I think you might not have been here that day when I shared the software that everybody should have set up. So that's probably my fault. I should have started recording the sessions sooner, but it's all good. So there's the link right there for Git if you don't have Git. If you're running the command and it just says like Git not found, then you don't have Git installed and you'll have to install Git. But easy download. And so for those who do have Git installed, go ahead and just run git clone and then paste the link and press enter. And you'll see the code. You'll see a couple commands being run in your command line, and that's just the command line downloading the code from the GitHub repo. Is anyone having any trouble with that? Did the command go through smoothly for everybody?
I'm having to install Git, and I forget how to check. It says 32 or 64-bit. I don't remember with this computer. Do you know how to check it, or should I keep Googling it?
It's most likely 64. How old is your computer?
Oh, 6 years.
You could go to system settings and system type. So if you just type in system settings in the search, your device specifications will pop up.
That didn't work.
System settings.
PC name. In your search box, type in PC name.
Oh yeah, that'll pull it up too.
64.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, usually it is these days, unless you have an old computer. Cool, cool. Everybody else good though? I'm assuming you are because nobody's spoken up. So cool, cool. So I'll keep going. Dana, don't worry. I'm gonna move a little slow just to make sure that you're all good too. I'm gonna take care of you, so don't worry. Now, how do I know which branches already exist on this repo? If we go over to the repo, you can see I'm on my main branch right now, and I have 2 branches in this repo. And so one is the main branch, one is the files branch, because I'm going to use this files branch to create the files. Like this is the next to do. I'm also going to create just what's the feature that we're building right now? The first feature we chose. So for those who weren't here, we spent a day just creating user stories, and the feature we decided to start with was as a volunteer. I want to easily find volunteer opportunities so that I could find what services are offered. So this is the one we're starting with. And so I'm going to create a branch called volunteer search. And we'll work on this branch. So I'll create that as well. So we have our volunteer search. We have our files. I'm going to work on the files. I'll merge that with the volunteer search. But when you first pull this GitHub repo, I want you to get comfortable with Git status as well. Especially in the beginning until you get really comfortable. Like this is just something I run to see what the status is sometimes. How do we know what branches exist on this repo? And the way that we're going to find that out is you're just going to run git branch A. So I believe the A stands for all. You'll run that. And so you can see right now I'm on the files branch. So the code that you're seeing in my code editor, if I go ahead and open up my code editor, the code you're seeing in my code editor is on the files branch. I also have a main branch. So I have on my local repo, on my computer, I have a files branch and I have a main branch. These red ones are the branches that are in the GitHub repo in the cloud. So you can see in the cloud, we have our remotes, origin, head, we have our files, so the one I'm going to be working on tonight, and we have our main branch. Now you can see that I added the volunteer search branch, but it's not showing up here. Why? Because let me just do a git checkout main. So I'm switching to the main branch. You can see before I was on the files branch because there's a star here, but if I go ahead and do git branch A again, now I'm on the main branch. But we're still not seeing volunteer search. So let me go ahead and do a git pull, which is going to fetch and merge the branches from the repo to my local branch. So you could see running that git pull, now I have access to this volunteer branch. That's the only thing really that popped up. So if I run git branch A, now you can see that I can see this volunteer search branch from the remote repository. But still on my local computer, like here locally in my code base, I still only have main and files. So I'm actually going to have to do something to start working on this volunteer search branch. But let me not get ahead of myself.
Hey Jim.
Yes.
I installed Git. There was 20 different questions. I didn't know how to answer them, so I accepted defaults, finished, and it still doesn't work.
Close your command line and restart it. That should work. Restarting the command line should work. If it doesn't, then we're gonna have to add it to the path. We'll have to add the executable to the path. Is it working?
Working on it. I had to go back through and do all of the CD stuff.
I think you could just run git-v and you could see if it's working now.
It says enumerating objects.
Okay, cool. You did the git clone?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And you were in the directory that you want your project?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. So now if you run dir, you should see Nonprofit Navigator. So just cd into Nonprofit Navigator. Cool. Cool. So running git branch A is just going to show you the green and the white ones are going to be the ones that are on your local repository. The red ones are the ones that are in the cloud on the remote. If you know that there's features or branches on the remote repository that you're not seeing here, you just need to do a git pull. That git pull is going to update your local repo, so you actually see the branches that are there. And once you could see the branch that's there, then you're going to be able to connect one of your branches here with the branch that you want to work on. But everyone will get hands-on experience doing that tonight, so don't worry. All right, so I want to work on a task, specifically the files task. How do I move to the files branch to begin my work? So you can see if you open up our code, we don't have any files yet. And so I'm on the main branch. I want to switch to the files branch so I could, build this quote unquote feature. So what I'm going to run is git checkout files. And you can see switch to branch files. Your branch is up to date with origin files. So that means my local files code base matches the code in GitHub, which is good. If it didn't match the code that was in GitHub, then I would have to do a git pull. So I'd pull the code from the GitHub repo so that the code from the GitHub repo is synchronized with the code on my local computer. And basically, anytime you're about to start working on a feature or anytime you're about to commit a feature, you want to do that git pull no matter what branch you're on. That's just going to minimize the chances that you have merge conflicts. It's also going to make it easier to resolve a merge conflict when they do arise. So before you start and before you commit.
Just one suggestion which I've seen. So just to avoid merge conflicts as well, always follow this particular pattern where not more than if you're working, if let's say 3 developers are working on a project, try to avoid working on same file. Because even if let's say you are trying to make sure that you do git pull and push, because both 2 people are working on the same file, when even you pull, you have to also make sure that your changes don't get wiped out by someone else's new changes, even if you do merge conflict. So it's a good practice to avoid working on same file if 2 developers are working.
Yeah, we're going to have, I agree with that 100%. We're definitely going to have merge conflicts because there's going to be several people working on the same file. So it's nice to see it as early as you possibly can so you could work through it and understand it, that it's something that happened. But yeah, Aditya is totally right. If you avoid working on the same file, you don't have to worry about those merge conflicts. So I want to work on that task. All I had to do was do git checkout branch name because I already had the files branch created. I also already had a reference to the files in the remote. I won't go over this because I don't want to complicate it for everybody. But all right, so I'm on the correct branch. Now what? So I can see that my branch is up to date with origin files. But do a git pull. Just get into the habit of doing the git pull to make sure that you're always up to date. And you're good to go. Everything is up to date. Now what? Now you're ready to start coding. So we code. So I'm going to go over to the code editor. I know that this branch I'm using just to add some files. So I'm going to add an index.html. I'm going to add a main.js. And I'm going to add some code here. So I'm just using, for me, there's this tool in Visual Studio Code called Emmet, where if you just type syntax, it'll give you a couple options, pre-built code. So if I type on HTML5, it just gives me like the template for most HTML documents. So the more you code, the more you'll see what the options are for that. But they have Emmet for basically like everything, JavaScript, React. It's just really good and it increases productivity. For now, I would recommend if you're new to HTML, new to JavaScript, that you just type stuff out to get the muscle memory. But that's what I did. If you're like, hey, how did all that code appear? That's how. So we have our HTML. If we go back to the Figma, we know that we're going to have our navigation, we're going to have our footer, and we are going to have our main. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do nav. I'm going to do a footer. And I'm going to do a main. So we have that. I'm thinking how much I actually want to, because I want everybody else to do it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just create the divs, and then I'm going to let everybody else do the coding. So,
hey, Jim, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Can you go back to your Visual Studio Code real quick?
Yes.
Okay, so do you mind if we do divs? And if we do divs, can we put them before the nav or before the main or after the main? Does it matter where you put divs?
Yeah, so we're going to keep our divs inside the nav, inside the main, and inside the footer. Yeah, and the only time I really use divs is when I'm creating a component, like when I'm creating a group of elements that I want to keep together. But yeah, so it does matter. I'll get into that more though, don't worry.
Okay, cool.
So based on this, we have inside of our main, we have our volunteer search. I'll just call that like a volunteer search. So let me go ahead and just create a div with an ID of volunteer search. So we have that. We also have a volunteer list. But there is, so we have a search, we have an image, we have a header, we have a search, and we have our list. So I'm going to create, let me just call this home. I'm going to create this one as volunteer search page. And like I said, there's going to be like an image, a header, a search. So just inside of here, we'll have all of this. And then we're going to have 3 pages. So we'll just say for now, page 1, page 2, details page 1, details page 2, and details page 3. So I know I'm going to need 3. And we'll call this, oops, volunteer search details page 1.
Each div is a page.
Yes, each one of these divs is going to be a page. Eventually, we're going to convert this to being dynamically rendered with JavaScript and using array to render all this stuff, but we'll just hard code it out so everyone could get their hands dirty tonight and yeah, and kind of just understand everything. So we have our footer, and then our nav on every page is going to be home and volunteer. So we're just going to have 2 buttons. I'll let someone work on that nav though. So this should be good. We want this to be showing when we first get to the page. We want this to be, so if we do style, display, none, each one of these is, we don't want these to be showing. But I want you guys to be able to see it as you're coding it. So we'll add this later. We'll keep everything on the page for now. All right, cool. So we have our index.html. Now let me go ahead and just say, because we're going to need a function to show this. We're going to need a function to show this, this, and this. So I'm just going to go to our JavaScript. I'm going to add some comments. So function to show home page, function to show volunteer list page, function to show volunteer details page 1, and then page 2 and page 3. And I'm going to let everybody work on one of these functions as well. So everyone will get their hands dirty with some HTML and some JavaScript tonight. All right. So that's good. That's good for me. Like, I'm like, all right, I did a little bit of work. You can see we're at this stage here where it's like time to code. I did a little bit of work. I was productive. I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. It's so easy, especially in the beginning when you're working on some code, to start working on something that has nothing to do with what you're actually trying to do. And so you could see I was just supposed to add files, right? I wasn't supposed to like write any code. My task was to add files, but I wrote a little bit of code as well. And I wrote some comments in the JavaScript, which is fine. So what now? I'm done with my coding. What now? How do I let all of you guys know and gals know that I made changes to the code base? And I want you guys to be aware of these changes that I made to the code base, right? So now we're done writing code. How do I share this with the team? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stage my changes by using the git add command with the files I want to commit. So what I want to do is, let me just look at the status. So do this, because then you'll see what files have been changed, added, deleted, that sort of thing. So you could see when I run git status, index.html has been modified and main.js has been modified. But let's just say I was working on like some UI feature in the index.html, and I was working on a rendering function in the main.js that has nothing to do with the button in the index.html. How do I commit these changes in a way where I could keep them separate and keep them organized? And so if I'm using this git add, if I run git add dot, it's going to stage all of my changes. I don't want to do that. I want to keep like certain focus changes separate from the other changes that really don't have anything to do with these changes. And so I'm going to just do git add index.html. And now if I do git status, you can see that this is ready to be committed. This is not ready to be committed. These are changes I made, but I don't want to add these changes to this current commit. I just want this commit to have to do with this file. And so since I ran git add with the files I want to add to this commit, I run git commit -m, which is a tag just saying I want to add a message to this commit. It makes it easier to keep track of your commits later, because you're going to get a commit ID. Each commit is going to have a developer's name. It's going to have the date. But if you add a message, it's going to make it easy to know like what this commit actually was. So I'm just going to say HTML specific changes and boom. So files. Here's the commit ID, a shortened version of it. HTML specific changes, one file changed, 40 lines of code. So boom. Now, just run status again. You can see the only file left is main.js. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just do a git push. Actually, I'll add this. Let me add now main.js. So now I want to stage this for a different commit. Git add main.js. So if I do git status, you can see now this file here is ready to be committed. Git commit -m JavaScript specific modifications. Now there's nothing to commit. I've committed all of my changes. Your branch is ahead of origin files. So what does this mean? That means that the remote repository that we pulled from in the beginning, our GitHub repository that the whole team has access to, is behind my current state. That means I'm ahead. Like I've made changes to the code that the GitHub repo doesn't see yet. And so what I have to do now is just git push. And so this is pushing my changes to the GitHub repo. So now if we go up to the GitHub repo, you can see files had a recent push, had recent pushes less than a minute ago. Still, you could see the current status of our main branch. There's nothing in there. But what if I check out volunteer search? Also, there's nothing in there. That's our feature branch. What if I check out files? Oh, okay. These are the changes I just made to files. So now everybody else who's working on files or working on this feature with me, or just working on the feature branch or looking at the code base, sees like, oh, okay, Jim just pushed some code to the GitHub repo. We'll go back to main. So files had recent pushes 1 minute ago, and now the code is in the code base. Now this is something that I want you guys to be able to do sooner than later, is just create your own pull request. After you've made the changes you want to make to the code, after you've added the changes for staging, after you've committed the changes and created a commit, after you pushed your commit to the GitHub repo, it's going to be time to actually merge your files branch with the volunteer branch. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare and pull request, add a title, added index.html and main.js. I could even say add divs for homepage, volunteer list, and volunteer details pages 1, 2, and 3. I think the more details, the better, but depends on who you're working with. And then you could see up here, you want to always be careful of this, because the way I set this repo is you can't make a pull request into the main branch. You can't push directly to the main branch, I mean, but you don't want files to go directly into the main branch, because files is just one of the tasks that need to be completed for this feature. So we actually want to push this files branch into the volunteer search branch. So we want the changes that I made to this task or this to-do to go into the volunteer search feature. And the reason for that is because you don't want an unfinished feature to be pushed into the main branch. So we'll have like modify the files, add HTML, add the elements, write your JavaScript function. These are all individual tasks that we're doing for the volunteer search feature. So until we actually finish the volunteer search feature in a sufficient way where we're like, okay, all the requirements are met, it does what we want it to do, it shows what we want it to show, then and only then would we merge the volunteer search feature into the main branch. And then the main branch would be our deployment branch. So we have our files. This arrow is saying we want to merge our files into our volunteer search branch. Add some details. You could even add some labels to it. I believe you could tag the issue that was done on it, and then you could see that the changes are here. Additions are going to be green. Deletions are going to be red. So I'll go ahead and do create pull request. It's checking for ability to merge automatically. We haven't set up continuous integration. That's outside the scope of this bootcamp. But so this branch has no conflicts with the base branch. Perfect. So I will merge pull request. I could add some notes here. I could even give some feedback, if it's like acceptable, but there are things you could have done better. I'll definitely leave feedback for everybody as well. And then just confirm merge. Now you're all set. The files branch could be safely deleted. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this branch in our GitHub repo. Let me go back to our main code base, code. And so you can see now we only have 2 branches. So if we look at our main branch, still there's been no modifications to our main branch. But if we look at our volunteer search branch, you can see that our volunteer search branch has the changes that I made to the files branch that I merged in with the volunteer search branch. And so everyone will be working on their own independent tasks and to-dos and merging them in, making a pull request to merge them in with our feature branch. And only when we're satisfied with our feature branch, the volunteer search branch, it matches this, the functionality is what we want it to be, then we'll merge our volunteer search branch in with our main branch. Let me think if I'm forgetting anything. Git push. Oh, last thing I want to say. If I come back to my command line, and now we could say git branch A. Let's check out our branches. I'm still on files, but this to-do is done. I don't need this to-do anymore. Maybe a couple weeks from now or a month, we're adding more files, or maybe something similar will come, but I want to create a new branch for that anyway. So I just don't need this files branch anymore. And so what I want to do is git checkout main. I want to move over to the main branch, do git branch A. You can see now the head is pointing to my main branch. So since I moved to my main branch, if I look at my code editor, I'm like, hey, where'd my changes go? It's because our main branch doesn't have our volunteer search code or our files code. This is the main branch. We haven't merged our feature in with our main branch yet. So if I go to my main branch, it's just not it's not, it matches the GitHub repository, but it just hasn't been merged. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do git checkout b volunteer search, and then origin volunteer search. So basically I'm switching to a different branch. I'm creating a new branch called volunteer search, and I want it to be connected to the GitHub repo, the branch in the GitHub repo called volunteer search. So if I press enter, switch to new branch, volunteer search. Let me go ahead and get status. We're up to date. Pull open my code editor. Where's my code? I thought I just switched over to the feature branch, our volunteer search branch.
Don't you have to do a git pull to get the updated code?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay.
Nice. I love that someone pointed that out. So cool.
Okay.
I was asking rhetorically, but you answered it. I love it. Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
So now you can see it's added our index.html, our main.js, and now I have access to these changes. Now I'm also on my volunteer search. This files one I'm not going to use anymore. So I could do git branch d files. This is going to delete deleted branch files. And if I check my branches again, boom. Now I just have my main, my volunteer search. And when I select another to-do, or when I'm assigned another to-do, then what I'll do is git checkout b and create a new branch. So you can see in our GitHub repo, we still have head, files, main, and volunteer search. So that's the gist of it. Now I'm going to share the live share link. I want everyone to hop in here. We're just going to build some of this code out. So we're going to start building this website and give everyone a chance just to type a little code.